Story 1. Gather around, my friends, and let me take you on a spine-chilling journey into the heart of Halloween darkness. It was a night like no other, when the world seemed to shroud itself in a cloak of shadows, and the very air you breathed held the promise of terror. The moon, pale and waxy, hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the silent streets. As I ventured out into the inky abyss of Halloween night, I could feel the weight of ancient spirits pressing down upon me. The wind whispered secrets of long-forgotten horrors, and the leaves rustled like spectral voices. The neighborhood was transformed into a nightmarish landscape. Houses adorned with cobwebs and ghastly decorations leered at me with ghoulish grins. Jack-o'-lanterns, their flickering eyes and crooked smiles, seemed to follow my every step, their malevolent gazes dancing in the flickering candlelight. But it was not the decorations that filled me with dread. It was the knowledge that on this night, the boundary between our world and the supernatural grew thin. Ghosts, ghouls, and things we dare not speak of roamed freely, seeking mischief and mayhem. I ventured deeper into the darkness, my heart pounding like a funeral drum. A cold sweat clung to my skin as I turned a corner and found myself facing an old, abandoned mansion. Its decrepit facade loomed like a colossal nightmare, ivy crawling up its walls like serpents, and its windows, mere black voids, seemed to draw me in. Unable to resist the lure of the unknown, I pushed open the creaking gate and entered the overgrown garden. The gravel crunched beneath my feet, each step echoing like a death knell. A sudden gust of wind sent a shiver down my spine, and I knew I was not alone. From the depths of the mansion, a bone-chilling wail echoed, sending tremors through my very soul. I could hear the whispers of the long-departed, their voices like icy fingers tracing patterns on my skin. The walls of the mansion seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, and the air grew thick with the scent of decay. As I explored the haunted halls, shadows danced and taunted, taking on grotesque forms that defied reason. The paintings on the walls twisted into grotesque caricatures of life, their eyes following me, mocking me, as if they knew the terrible secrets of the house. In one room I encountered a spectral child, her hollow eyes filled with longing. She reached out to me, her hand passing through mine like smoke. Her mournful gaze seemed to say, "Help me," but her voice was but a faint echo, lost in the abyss of time. As the night wore on, the mansion revealed its darkest secrets. I stumbled upon a hidden chamber, filled with relics of unholy rituals, forbidden books, and cryptic symbols etched into the walls. It was here that I realized the mansion was a gateway to a realm of unspeakable horror, a place where the living and the dead converged. Suddenly a presence enveloped me, a malevolent force that threatened to consume my very essence. The room filled with a chorus of tormented voices, their anguished cries echoing in my mind. I knew then that I had ventured too far, that I had unlocked a doorway to a nightmare beyond imagination. With all the courage I could muster, I raced back through the twisting corridors, the malevolent force hot on my heels. The mansion itself seemed to convulse as if angered by my intrusion. The walls closed in, and the shadows snaked after me, hungry for my soul. Finally, I burst through the mansion's front doors, gasping for breath, my heart pounding like a war drum. I stumbled out into the moonlit night, the cursed mansion disappearing into the darkness behind me. I had survived the horrors that lurked within, but I knew that I would never be the same. And so, my friends, heed my warning as Halloween approaches. The night may be filled with excitement and fun, but never forget that the shadows hold secrets, and the darkness hides terrors that can shake the very foundation of your soul. Beware the haunted places, for they may never let you go, and the nightmares that dwell within may become all too real. Story 2. Let me take you back to that fateful Halloween, a night etched into my memory like a scar on my soul. It was the fall of my senior year in high school, and my friends and I had concocted a plan so audacious, so reckless, that it still sends shivers down my spine whenever I think about it. We were young and foolish, convinced that nothing could frighten us. So, when the idea was floated to throw a Halloween party in the old cemetery on the outskirts of town, we jumped at the chance. What could be spookier, we thought, than celebrating the darkest night of the year, amidst the resting souls of the departed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we gathered our supplies, jack-o'-lanterns, flickering candles, and a plethora of eerie decorations. The air was crisp and laden with the scent of fallen leaves. Excitement mingled with trepidation as we ventured into the cemetery, each step echoing with a morbid finality. The graveyard, bathed in moonlight, seemed to come alive with spectral whispers and distant rustlings. We set up our makeshift party amidst the tombstones, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows upon the weathered graves. The night unfolded with laughter and nervous energy, as we swapped ghost stories and dared each other to wander among the headstones. The wind whispered secrets of the long forgotten, and the gravestones themselves seemed to creak and groan in response. As the hours passed, a strange unease settled over the party. We couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes observing our reckless intrusion into this sacred place. Some of us began to see fleeting shadows, while others swore they heard distant moans carried on the wind. But it wasn't until we attempted a séance, our bravado pushing us further into the unknown, that things took a turn for the truly terrifying. We gathered around a makeshift Ouija board, our fingers trembling as we made contact with the other side, or so we thought. The planchette moved erratically, spelling out words we could barely comprehend. The atmosphere grew electric, and a cold, unnatural wind swept through the graveyard, extinguishing our candles one by one. Panic coursed through us as we realized we had awakened something beyond our control. Suddenly, the ground beneath us began to tremble, and the tombstones seemed to shift as if disturbed by an unseen force. An unearthly wail echoed through the night, a sound that pierced our very souls. We fled in terror, abandoning our decorations and leaving our foolishness behind. The next morning, we returned to the cemetery to find our party decorations scattered and destroyed, as if a tempest had swept through the graveyard. The townsfolk spoke of strange happenings that night, of tombstones mysteriously shifting and eerie sounds that chilled them to the bone. Our Halloween party in the cemetery had left a mark on all of us, a lingering reminder of the boundary between the living and the dead, a boundary not to be trifled with. We had danced on the precipice of the supernatural, and in doing so, we had witnessed horrors beyond our wildest imagination. That Halloween changed us forever, a night when we learned that some mysteries are best left unsolved, and some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. So, my friends, heed my tale, and remember that even in the thrill of youth, there are places and forces better left undisturbed on this most chilling of nights. Story 3. It was during my final year of high school when Halloween took on a sinister twist. The school had always celebrated the holiday with enthusiasm, but this year something was different, something wickedly eerie. As the days grew shorter and the nights darker, a palpable sense of foreboding settled upon our hallways. On the eve of Halloween, an unsettling rumor began to circulate among the students. It whispered of a cursed event that would unfold during the night's festivities, an event that was said to reveal the deepest, darkest secrets of our school's past. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, the school's Halloween dance transformed the gymnasium into a macabre carnival of horrors. Dimly lit, with cobwebs dripping from the rafters, and eerie music that seemed to seep into our very souls, the atmosphere was a perfect blend of exhilaration and unease. I, along with a group of daring friends, decided to venture into the school's basement, which had been strictly off-limits for years. The rumor mill had it that the basement harbored the school's darkest secrets, and on this night, it would reveal them. As we descended the creaky stairs into the inky blackness below, the temperature dropped precipitously. A chill settled into my bones, and I couldn't help but wonder if we were about to uncover something better left forgotten. The basement was a labyrinth of forgotten relics. Ancient textbooks, dusty trophies, and decaying yearbooks lined the shelves. As we moved deeper into the bowels of the school, our flashlights flickered and cast unsettling shadows on the peeling wallpaper. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in the darkness caught our attention. Whispers, barely audible, echoed through the corridors, and phantom footsteps seemed to follow us. Panic gripped our hearts as we realized we were not alone. We came upon a locked door at the far end of the basement, and the rumors whispered that this door held the key to the school's darkest secrets. With trembling hands, we tried to force it open, but it resisted, as if determined to protect the horrors beyond. Just as we were about to abandon our quest, a low, mournful wail filled the air, a sound that chilled us to our very core. The door swung open of its own accord, revealing a chamber bathed in a ghostly blue light. Inside, we found a collection of aged yearbooks, each one filled with photographs of students from decades past. But these weren't ordinary yearbooks. They contained the faces of students who had vanished mysteriously, their stories lost to time. As we leafed through the pages, the air grew heavy with the presence of those who had come before us. Shadowy figures appeared in the corners of our vision, their eyes hollow and accusatory. They whispered their stories of despair and torment, their voices intertwining into an otherworldly chorus. Suddenly, the room erupted in a blinding flash of light, and a deafening cacophony of voices filled our ears. The spirits of the lost students surged forth, their spectral forms reaching out to us, their eyes filled with anguish and betrayal. We fled the basement in terror, the door slamming shut behind us, as if the spirits themselves wished to remain locked away. The Halloween dance continued above, blissfully unaware of the horrors that had unfolded below. In the weeks that followed, the school seemed haunted by an eerie pall, as if the souls of the lost students lingered in every shadow. Halloween had forever changed for us, a night that would forever be associated with the chilling secrets of our high school's past. So, my friends, remember that Halloween is not always about candy and costumes. It can be a night when the past comes alive, and the darkest secrets of the places we thought we knew are revealed. Beware what you seek, for you may find more than you ever wished to uncover on this most sinister of nights. Story 4. It was Halloween night, the air crisp with the scent of fallen leaves and anticipation. My friends and I, eager for a night of sugary treasures, donned our costumes with excitement. Little did we know that this would be a Halloween like no other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we set out, our pillowcases at the ready to collect our haul of candies and treats. The neighborhood was transformed into a realm of spooky enchantment, with jack-o'-lanterns grinning from every doorstep and eerie decorations casting unsettling shadows. Our first few houses were standard fare, with friendly neighbors doling out miniature chocolates and candy corn. The night seemed filled with promise as we crunched through the fallen leaves, our laughter echoing in the crisp night air. But as we ventured deeper into the labyrinth of streets, we noticed something unsettling. Houses that had been decorated moments earlier lay in eerie silence. No porch lights flickered, and no cauldrons of candy sat waiting for eager trick-or-treaters. As we approached one particularly sinister-looking house, the sense of foreboding grew. The porch was shrouded in darkness, save for a flickering candle that cast grotesque shadows across the facade. A sign read, "Enter if you dare." Though a chill slithered down my spine, my friends urged me on, and we stepped onto the porch, knocking hesitantly on the door. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway that seemed to stretch on forever. Inside, the air was heavy with a strange, earthy scent, and the walls seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. We ventured further into the house, unable to resist the pull of curiosity and fear. The hallway led us to a grand, candlelit room. A shiver ran down my spine as I realized that we were not alone. Figures stood in the shadows, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. I could feel their gaze upon us, cold and predatory. The room was adorned with macabre decorations, dusty cobwebs, ancient portraits with eyes that seemed to follow our every move, and a centerpiece that sent terror rippling through our veins. It was a coffin, open and empty, its interior lined with crimson satin. As we gazed in horror at the coffin, a voice echoed through the room, chilling us to our very bones. "Welcome to my Halloween feast," it crooned, a haunting melody of madness. Suddenly the figures in the shadows emerged, their costumes grotesque and terrifying. They advanced upon us, their movements unholy and unnatural. We tried to flee, but the door slammed shut, sealing us in with these unholy apparitions. A nightmarish dance ensued, as we were chased through the house by these ghastly figures, their laughter echoing like the damned. It was as if the very walls conspired against us, leading us deeper into the labyrinthine nightmare. Finally, we stumbled upon a hidden passage, a narrow corridor that seemed to lead to safety. With every step, the malevolent presence receded, and we burst out of the house, gasping for breath and drenched in terror. The night air had never felt so sweet as it did when we fled that haunted house. We had escaped a nightmare beyond imagination, a Halloween nightmarish in its reality. It was a night we would never forget, a night when the line between trick-or-treat and true horror blurred into a chilling nightmare. And so, my friends, remember that even on the most innocent of nights, darkness can descend in an instant, and the line between fantasy and terror can blur. Halloween, a night of thrills and treats, can also become a night of true horror when the tricks are no longer mere pranks, but a descent into a realm of unspeakable terror. Story 5. Once upon a time, in a quaint little town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there stood a grand and imposing mansion known as Holleridge Manor. This mansion, though magnificent in its own right, was famous for all the wrong reasons. For generations, the townsfolk spoke of it in hushed whispers, and it had become the centerpiece of their eerie Halloween legends. Holleridge Manor had a history as dark as the darkest night. It was said that the mansion was built upon a cursed piece of land, and all who had ever inhabited it were destined for doom. The original owner, a wealthy merchant named Edward Holleridge, had mysteriously disappeared one Halloween night, leaving behind nothing but an enigmatic letter filled with cryptic symbols and strange warnings. The manor had changed hands many times over the years, and each owner met a tragic and untimely end. Some vanished without a trace, while others were plagued by horrific nightmares, madness, or a relentless series of misfortunes. The locals believed that malevolent spirits roamed the halls of Holleridge Manor, and every October 31st, the supernatural activity would reach its peak. As the tale goes, a daring journalist named Emily Thornton, known for her fearless pursuit of the truth, arrived in town on Halloween Eve. She had heard the legends of Holleridge Manor and was determined to uncover the secrets that shrouded the mansion. Armed with her investigative prowess and a stubborn resolve, Emily checked into the only inn in town, the Whispering Pines Inn. The innkeeper, an elderly woman named Agnes, welcomed Emily with a somber expression. "You be a brave soul to venture into Holleridge Manor," she said, her voice filled with caution. "Many have tried to uncover its mysteries, and none have returned the same." Emily smiled confidently. "I'm not one to be deterred by legends, Agnes. I'm here to get to the bottom of this story." That evening, Emily began her research, poring over old newspaper clippings, town archives, and speaking to the few locals who were willing to share their tales of woe. As the clock struck midnight, a thunderstorm raged outside, casting eerie shadows that danced across the inn's dimly lit common room. Agnes approached Emily with a cup of hot tea. "You'll be needing this," she said, her eyes filled with concern. Emily accepted the tea gratefully. "Thank you, Agnes. I'm determined to unravel the truth about Holleridge Manor." Agnes nodded solemnly. "Very well, but be warned. Tonight the spirits be restless. The townsfolk call it the Night of Shadows. The veil between the living and the dead grows thin." Undeterred, Emily took a sip of her tea and headed to her room, where she had set up her equipment for the night's investigation. Armed with cameras, voice recorders, and an assortment of gadgets, she made her way to the mansion. The wind howled as Emily stood before the imposing gates of Holleridge Manor. Lightning flashed, illuminating the mansion's decaying facade, and she couldn't help but feel a shiver run down her spine. With a deep breath, she pushed open the creaking gate and ventured into the overgrown garden. Inside the mansion, the air was heavy with a chilling presence. Her footsteps echoed through the dimly lit halls as she explored room after room. The walls seemed to whisper, and the portraits of long-dead Holleridge ancestors watched her every move with lifeless eyes. As Emily made her way to the grand ballroom, she heard faint, eerie music. The source of the haunting melody was a grand piano, untouched by human hands. It played by itself, the keys moving with ghostly precision. Emily approached the piano cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, a shadowy figure materialized before her. It was Edward Holleridge, the mansion's original owner, dressed in his 19th century attire. He appeared as if trapped in a perpetual state of anguish. "Who are you?" Emily stammered. "I am Edward Holleridge, cursed to roam these halls for eternity," he replied, his voice a mournful whisper. "You seek the truth, journalist, but beware, for the truth comes at a price." Before Emily could respond, Edward vanished into thin air, leaving her alone in the haunted ballroom. She knew she had to press on, determined to uncover the truth behind the curse that bound the mansion and its tormented souls. As the night wore on, Emily encountered more apparitions: a weeping woman in a Victorian gown, a spectral child playing with a long-forgotten toy, and a disheveled man with a noose around his neck. Each spirit shared a piece of the mansion's tragic history, revealing tales of betrayal, murder, and despair. In the darkest depths of the mansion's basement, Emily stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Inside, she found a series of journals, each one written by a different owner of Holleridge Manor. These journals chronicled their descent into madness, their encounters with vengeful spirits, and their desperate attempts to break the curse. One journal, belonging to a man named Samuel Holleridge, contained a chilling revelation. He had performed a forbidden ritual in a desperate bid to free himself from the mansion's curse. The ritual required a sacrifice, and Samuel had willingly offered the life of his own daughter, Amelia. Emily's heart sank as she read the horrific details of the ritual. She realized that the curse that bound Holleridge Manor was not merely the work of vengeful spirits, but a malevolent force fueled by unspeakable acts. Determined to put an end to the curse, Emily gathered her equipment and returned to the ballroom. There she performed a ritual of her own, invoking the spirits of Holleridge Manor to confront the darkness that had plagued them for centuries. The room filled with an otherworldly energy as the spirits materialized around her. The malevolent force that had bound them began to wane, and the mansion trembled as if in agony. The spirits, once tormented and vengeful, now appeared at peace, their ethereal forms fading into the mist. With a final chilling wail, the curse was broken, and Holleridge Manor fell silent. The mansion itself seemed to sigh with relief as its long-held darkness dissipated into the night. The next morning, the town awoke to find the once-dreaded Holleridge Manor standing silent and abandoned. Emily emerged from the mansion, weary but triumphant, and shared her findings with the townsfolk. The curse that had plagued their town for generations was no more. As time passed, Holleridge Manor's dark reputation began to fade. It was no longer a place of fear, but a symbol of resilience and the triumph of truth over darkness. The townsfolk reclaimed the mansion, restoring it to its former glory and transforming it into a museum dedicated to the town's history. Emily Thornton's name lived on in the annals of history as the fearless journalist who had uncovered the truth and broken the curse of Holleridge Manor. She had turned the most dreaded Halloween legend into a story of redemption and hope. And so every year on Halloween, the people of the town would gather at the now historic Holleridge Manor, not to fear the spirits of the past, but to celebrate the triumph of the living over the dead and the power of truth over legend. The haunted mansion had finally found peace, and the horrors of its past were no longer its legacy. Story 6. It was a Halloween night unlike any other, a night etched into my memory with the darkness of dread. My friends and I, teenagers with a penchant for thrill-seeking, decided to venture into the heart of the haunted forest that had always loomed at the edge of our small town. The trees, gnarled and sinister, cast elongated shadows that danced like wraiths in the eerie moonlight. The wind whispered secrets among the leaves, secrets we dared not comprehend. The night was ripe with an unnatural chill that cut through our costumes and clung to our skin like the breath of a specter. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the path grew less defined, and the air thickened with an otherworldly presence. Our flashlights flickered, and the ground seemed to shift beneath our feet, as if the very earth itself was alive and conspiring against us. Suddenly we came upon a clearing, a place where the moonlight pierced the canopy of trees. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient oak tree, its branches twisted and gnarled, reaching out like skeletal fingers into the abyss. Beneath the tree, an altar of sorts had been constructed, a sinister arrangement of bones, candles, and symbols etched into the earth. Fear clamped its icy hand around our hearts as we realized that we had stumbled upon something unholy, a ritual of malevolence in progress. The forest seemed to come alive with sinister whispers, as if the very trees were gossiping about our intrusion. We tried to flee, but an unseen force held us in place, our limbs like lead, our voices silenced by an invisible hand. Then, from the depths of the forest, a figure emerged, a cloaked, hooded figure with eyes like burning embers. It moved toward us with an otherworldly grace, its footsteps soundless upon the forest floor. "Welcome," it hissed, its voice a haunting blend of malice and mirth. "You've come to witness a night you shall never forget." The cloaked figure began to chant, and the altar erupted in a shower of sparks and shadows. The air grew charged with dark energy, and the moon seemed to weep blood. We were trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. As the ritual reached its crescendo, the ground beneath us began to quake, and the ancient oak tree unleashed a blood-curdling scream. The earth itself seemed to part, revealing a gaping maw that descended into darkness. With a rush of malevolent force, we were pulled into the abyss, our screams swallowed by the void. We tumbled through a nightmarish vortex of terror, our senses overwhelmed by a cacophony of horrors. When we finally emerged, it was into a realm of unspeakable darkness, a place where the very fabric of reality had unraveled. We were trapped in a nightmare beyond imagining, our world forever transformed into a realm of eternal Halloween. The cloaked figure, our tormentor and guide, cackled with malevolent glee, its laughter echoing through the abyss. "Welcome to your new reality," it whispered, its eyes like burning stars in the void. And so, my friends, remember that on Halloween night, when the shadows grow long and the darkness deepens, the boundaries between worlds can blur, and the ordinary can become extraordinary, and the mundane can become malevolent. Beware the unknown, for it may consume you whole and leave you forever lost in a world of unspeakable terror.